Welcome to the Global WarWatch Network, where we break down the most critical global events happening right now. Right, and today we are looking at a crisis that really, truly threatened to bring the global economy to a screeching halt. If you want to stay ahead of stories just like this one, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button now so you never miss an update. So let's set the scene. On April 12, 2026, the United States drops a bombshell announcement: a full naval blockade of Iran. Now, this wasn't just some political threat. This was a move with the power to completely redraw the map of global trade. But here's the real twist. And this is what the whole story is about. What if I told you the strait was already closed? Yeah, not by destroyers and aircraft carriers, but by a quiet decision made in a boardroom, probably in London. To get what really happened, you have to look past the military headlines and, well, follow the money. Exactly. And to really get that financial side of the story, we've got to rewind the clock a little bit, back to the military conflict that lit the fuse in the first place. It all kicked off with a US-led operation called Epic Fury. And things escalated so quickly. You can see it on the timeline. It all starts February 28th with US and Israeli airstrikes. But look what happens just 2 days later, March 2nd. The maritime insurers pulled the plug. By March 8th, way before any official blockade was even being talked about, the Strait of Hormuz was already a ghost town. And you had these two completely different realities being presented to the world. The official line from the White House was that it was an overwhelming success that just crushed Iran's military. But then you had critics calling it a geopolitical disaster, a constitutional crisis that was already triggering these massive economic shocks. It's like they were talking about two different planets. Which brings us to the most crucial point here. While everyone was watching the bombing campaign, a totally different kind of blockade was taking shape. This one didn't use submarines, it used spreadsheets. And it all comes down to this one often overlooked idea: war risk insurance. Look, this is not an optional extra. It's basically the golden ticket a ship needs to even think about going into a conflict zone. Without this piece of paper, ships are legally and financially forbidden from sailing. It is an absolute 100% non-negotiable. And the speed of this financial blockade was just breathtaking. 72 hours, that's it. While the military was still calculating battle damage, a handful of decisions made in offices in London, Oslo, and New York effectively turned off the tap for a fifth of the world's oil supply. The effect was immediate, and it was devastating. I mean, look at this chart. Shipping traffic didn't just slow down, it completely fell off a cliff. We're talking a collapse of over 90%. The strait pretty much became a massive parking lot for supertankers, with ships either stranded outside or trapped inside. It was a total logistical nightmare. And this table right here shows you exactly why. So before the war, insuring a big supertanker for one trip through Hormuz, it cost about $150,000. Okay? By March 5th, that same policy skyrocketed to as much as $3.6 million. And if your ship was flagged to the US, the UK, or Israel, forget about it. It was even higher. That's a 24-fold increase. It just made the journey economically impossible. You know, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? The most decisive action wasn't taken on a battlefield. It was a risk calculation made in an office that was more effective at closing the strait than any military force could ever hope to be. Okay, so with shipping at a total standstill, the world's focus pivots to diplomacy to try and fix this mess. But as we're about to see, the international community was just deeply fractured. They couldn't find a path forward. Yeah, the whole diplomatic effort was basically a story of compromises and dead ends. A UN resolution gets proposed, but it gets watered down immediately to try and appease Russia and China, stripping out any threat of military force. But even that wasn't enough for them. So the talks get moved to Islamabad, but the result was exactly the same: total failure. And then, on April 7th, this was the final nail in the coffin. Russia and China officially vetoed the UN resolution. And with that one single act, any hope of a diplomatic path to reopening the Strait of Hormuz was completely gone. So you've got the strait closed first by finance, and then the diplomatic solution hits a brick wall. So what did that actually mean for the rest of us, for the rest of the world? Well, the economic consequences were immediate, and they were incredibly severe. This chart right here tells the story of oil prices. Before this all kicked off, Brent crude was pretty stable, sitting around $70 a barrel. At the peak of the crisis, it shot up to $126. This wasn't just a price spike. People were calling it the largest single disruption to the world's energy supplies since the 1970s. And the shockwaves went way beyond the gas pump. The supply disruption was just massive, 3 to 5 times larger than anything we'd seen before from a geopolitical event. Shipping rates on certain routes exploded by 900%. All of a sudden, you had shortages and price hikes for things you wouldn't even think of, like fertilizer and aluminum. The UN had a name for it, a triple shock to the entire global system. But the real cost, the true cost, wasn't measured in dollars. It was measured in human lives. The United Nations estimated that the economic fallout from this crisis would push 32 million people into poverty. Just a devastating reminder of the very real human price of these geopolitical conflicts. So, all of this leaves us with a really critical question for the 21st century. As these financial and military tools get more and more tangled up, what is actually the most powerful weapon a country has? Is it a guided missile? Or is it an insurance premium? That's our look at the Hormuz crisis. Thank you so much for joining us as we unpacked this incredibly complex and critical global event. If you found this valuable, please like this, share it, and of course, subscribe to the Global WarWatch Network. We really want to hear your thoughts on that final question, so please leave a comment below. And you can join our community on social media too. All the links for that are waiting for you in the description. Thanks for watching.